Okay. So, welcome everyone to Divine Business Journeys and the Divine Business Circle. And I have a couple of people in the waiting room, so I'm just going to let them in before we introduce the series. Okay. So a very warm welcome to Divine Business Journeys. This is a guest interview series where we are going on journeys to meet creatives, mystics, holistic business owners, and we are learning from our guests' experience and challenges and their own breakthroughs on their divine business journeys. So this is episode 7, and we're joined by Elisabeth Brooke, who is a magical herbalist, and we will be diving into her divine business journey. Elisabeth is the author of many magical herbal and astrology books, including A Woman's Book of Herbs, A Woman's Book of Shadows, Traditional Western Herbal Medicine, As Above, So Below, Women Healers Through History, and her newest book, which just came out on the equinox, which is called Goddess Astrology, and we're especially going to look into that today. And so, yes, we're very much looking forward to a goddess meditation, which we will find out a bit more of in due course. So welcome, Elisabeth. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, Elisabeth, we've known each other for a few years now. You've come up to Scotland for a Magical Herbal Scotland series of retreats. I think it was around 2017 or 18, something like that, and covered the 4 seasons and did some beautiful intuitive herbal meditations. And so it's been really lovely to connect with you, and I'm so excited to get a chance to discover a bit more of your work. And I'm also happy to welcome a couple of our friends. So we've got Amanda here, we've got Maria, and possibly a few more will join us throughout the session. And this will be going out on a replay as well, to whoever is tuning on the replay. So welcome everyone. And so, Elisabeth, I would love to just bring you back to where everything first began. So what came first? Was it the herbal medicine? Was it the astrology? What were the little seeds that were planted which have blossomed into the Goddess Astrology book that we now have today? I would love to hear where it all started.
It started in Amsterdam. I was a hippie back in the early 70s, and I was living in Amsterdam, and I didn't speak Dutch, and we had a friend who had 3 English books, and he gave them to me. And the first one was a book about macrobiotics. The second one was Jethro Kloss, Back to Eden, the herbal book. And I cannot remember what the third one was. Anyway, I read Back to Eden, and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And it was like a gift. It was a gift from nowhere. So, and I come from a family that loves plants. My mother loved gardening. My grandmother had beautiful rose gardens. And when I came back to England, eventually, I studied with the National Institute of Medical Herbalists. And I did their 4-year course, which was dry as dust.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was. Yes. We learned medical science, which is great. I mean, so I have that language.
Yes.
But the herbs were things in brown bottles. And I felt very much that we'd lost something I felt that they'd sold their soul to medicine, really. So when I qualified and I started seeing patients, I decided to do it differently. And so I started, first of all, making my own medicines. That felt very, very important, that actually I got my hands on the remedies. And at the time, and I was working in a collective with alternative practitioners, acupuncturists, osteopaths. And one day, another of these random things that happen in life, an American woman came in, and she was psychic, and we hit it off. And she said, "Well, do you want to work with me?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" You know? And so she taught me a lot of her psychic skills. And we used to have meetings in my collective. And I remember they came over to my house one day, and I was going to talk to them about herbs. They wanted to know about herbs. And I said, "Why didn't we do it psychically?" Just an idea. And so we did. And it was amazing. It was extraordinary. And you've been in these groups, Fiona, and you know what that's like. It's like a totally different realm of relating to herbs. Their physical uses, their emotional uses, their magical uses, their spiritual uses, deep and incredibly moving. And so I ran these groups, not just with the practitioners, but with all sorts of people, not herbalists in the main.
Yes.
But I ran these groups for several years and collected the information together. And that's where the first book came from. At the same time, I bumped into astrologers, and I thought, "Oh, this is interesting." And later, astrologers who are working with Astrological Medicine, the company of astrologers, and I studied with them. And that's where the astrological bit of my first book came, because I knew that we had a philosophy in the UK, and a lot of my contemporaries, when we qualified, they went to learn Ayurveda, and many of them went to learn Chinese medicine. And I felt very, very strongly that we should be rooted in our land where we are. And it wasn't good to be importing stuff. And that we had a philosophy, but because of witchcraft in the 17th century, and people were terrified of being accused of being witches, the whole magical astrological side of herbalism was pushed to one side, and Culpeper was the last one. Culpeper and William Lilly were the last ones to really practice it. So I got a ticket to the British Library and I read it all, and that's how I put it together.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful to you for bridging that quite long gap, because Culpeper and Lilly, they were, you know, a good couple of, well, probably 3 centuries ago now. So yeah, we really had lost a connection with the more magical side and the astrological side of medicine. And of course, medicine was herbalism back in the day. So, you know, we weren't alternative medical practitioners. It was just the medics of the day. So yeah, I really love that you've reawakened that in our modern times. And it's interesting to hear that it was the herbal medicine that came first and astrology that came second, because in my case, it was the other way around. I got into tarot and astrology, and then the herbal medicine came in about maybe 8 years later on down the line. I didn't even know what being a herb, I didn't even know herbal medicine was a thing. But yeah, so it's lovely to hear, you know, the different ways that we weave in. And I love the term magical, a magical herbalist is what you call yourself. And when did you claim that for yourself? How did that come about? Is that a recent thing, or has that been from the very beginning?
The book was published in 92, which is a long time ago.
Yes. Okay, so you've been referring to yourself as a magical herbalist since that first book.
It felt really important to claim that, because the second thing I did was look about women in history in medicine.
Yes.
Because also very much when I studied to be a herbalist, we were taught by some doctors as well, was that we were there on sufferance. It's like, if we were good girls, we could practice medicine. And I thought, is this true? So I got a ticket to the Wellcome Library, and I read, there's a whole section about women in medicine. And it was like every generation, women dug up this information about women physicians in the past. And then it got lost. And it, like, every 30 years, there would be another book and it would get lost. So it felt very important to reclaim that.
Yes. Okay. So the women healers in history, that was your second book after it was Women's Book of Herbs, was it the first one? Yeah. Okay. And then what came next? Because you've published quite a lot now. What was the next in line?
A Woman's Book of Shadows, which was
Okay.
a magical side of it, because I think you
Mhm.
cannot treat the physical body without
Yes.
treating the emotional body, without
Mhm.
treating the mental body and the spiritual body. It's all the same. And you probably see that in your practice. People come
Mhm.
with heartache
Yes.
and they might have high blood pressure or gut
Yes.
pain. Well, yeah, you can give them marshmallow root and all the rest of it. But
Mhm.
actually, if you've got heartache, find
Mm.
out about their heartache.
Mhm.
Because the next thing I did was I was very young when I qualified, and I had, I was 25, I think, not a
Right.
clue about how to talk to people. So I did a psychotherapy course with the
Amazing.
Psychosynthesis Institute, and
Mm.
that's where I learned to do guided meditations, and also learn about the relationship between the psyche, the emotions, and the body. They
Yeah,
all affect each other. And
I
so
love
Women's
that.
Book of Shadow was part of that. It was about empowering our
Mm-hmm.
magical selves and noticing things like the cycles of the moon,
Yes.
festivals. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got Halloween or Samhain coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's important to think about going down into winter, to think about death and loss, because it's part of
Mm-hmm.
life. It
Yes.
gives a structure and a meaning to our year, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Yeah. Well, like yourself, I studied a Bachelor of Science honours degree in herbal medicine at Napier University, and it was very much that sort of ticking all the boxes of an academic course. And so, things like following the seasons or actually spending time with the actual plants. It was so minimal. I think we went to the car park and that was our outing. I mean, we did have one or two other outings, but yeah, that just sort of sticks with me that we were kind of looking at little, I mean, which were beautiful as well. And actually, was brought up in the city, so I do find it meaningful to connect with plants in all kinds of environments. But yeah, it's lovely to see actually more and more these days. A lot of herbalists offering more magical types of courses, and that there's a sort of move away from the more academic side. Having said that, I do appreciate having had that framework in a way because I think sometimes in order to unlearn something, you need to know what it is that you're unlearning in the first place. So, and I'm sure that's informed a lot of your work because I'm aware that with your most recent book, Goddess Astrology, that you actually translated a lot of the original text yourself, which is incredible. So, how did you learn that? Did you do a degree in classical languages as well, or how did
I
that come
did
about?
actually, yes, I
Right.
did. I did a
Yeah.
degree in classical studies, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing a master's at the moment.
Amazing.
Um,
Yes.
because translation is not neutral.
Mm-hmm.
We take what people have translated, excuse me, and we
Yes.
assume it's true. No, because people look through their own rose-colored spectacles. A lot of
Yes.
the texts that were translated by gentlemen in the 19th
Mm-hmm.
century. Well, what
Yes.
was their perspective? There's no such thing as objectivity. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
that it was very important, like going back to Culpeper, it was like going back to
Mm-hmm.
source and having a look and seeing if
Yeah.
it's true, because there's
Yeah.
so much I'd say prejudice,
Mm-hmm.
but there's misinformation or
Yeah.
mistranslation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got her joining us from Australia. So she's just joining in too. So that's really interesting that you have such an insight into the texts. And tell us a bit more about Goddess Astrology. So I was curious about. So was the classics before the herbal medicine, in fact, or did that come?
No, that came later. I finished it in 2015, I think.
Oh, that's so very
I don't know,
recent.
not that long ago.
Yeah.
because images and archetypes are really, really important. The images we have of the Greek gods came from Ovid, who was a Roman writing in the time of Augustus, and he had a particular mindset. It felt very important to go back to source, because what we think, we're going to do a meditation about Mars in a while, what we think about Mars, if we look at astrology, is coloured by Ovid. And is Ovid, a good place to start, or is it better to start at the Homeric hymns where I started, which are the 6th century BC, so before classical, because they had a different mindset, they saw things differently.
Yes.
And so that's why it was important to translate it, and also think about how we see ourselves. Mars particularly is dodgy, because Mars in traditional astrology is aggression, in mythology it's anger. Mars is seen as dumb, stupid, running around with a big sword, fighting people, Actually, there's another side of Mars. It's a female side of Mars, which is very different, much more subtle, because we all have that energy of Mars in ourselves. But of course, we've been socialized with 2,000 years of Christianity, or patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. And so it's very hard to access that in a positive way.
Yes.
But it's there. And I just wanted to rewrite the story.
Yeah, I love when I asked you, or invited you on this this series, and we were exploring what you might like to offer as a little mini gift to our listeners, and you mentioned the goddess, or the feminine expression of Mars. I actually lit up because, as you know, my Venus and Mercury signs are in Aries, and I know you have a sun in Aries, and I know we have at least one other of our participants who is an Aries goddess, Amanda. I mean, here we're recording this while I'm here in Malaysia, and we've just had the Diwali or Deepavali celebrations, which is a Hindu festival of lights, celebrating light within the darkness. So I felt it was really lovely that you chose Mars, because we are moving. I mean, I'm here on the equator where we don't really see the difference in seasons all that much, but I do live and practice in Scotland, and I'm very connected with that land as well. So I'm aware that most of the people I'm connected to are moving into the darker time of year. I must acknowledge we also have someone who's based down in the southern hemisphere. We've got Fiona, another herbalist. So over at your end, Fiona, it is springtime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So so I mean, whichever end of the spectrum we're on, there is either an emerging of light out of darkness, or a celebration of light within the darkness. And I love that we're focusing on Mars today, because it's not one that we typically, or astrologers, there's often this very black and white, very binary approach to presenting Mars, Venus. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So I love this women are from Mars approach. So tell me a bit more about why that jumped out at you to share for our session today. Is there anything in particular, or just intuition?
Yeah, I think what's happening in the world today, in Iran, in the United States, is women reclaiming their rage. Particularly in Iran, it is not okay. It is outrageous. We are not having this. And what that takes is very Martian energy of rage, righteous rage, I'd call it, and courage. Because when I see those pictures of the women in Iran, my heart aches for them, for the danger, the courage, the fear they must have overcome.
Yeah.
Likewise, in the United States, the women on the streets protesting, about all the nutty stuff that's happening over there about women's bodies, controlling women's bodies, reducing women's rights. This is Mars. This is Mars. This is a female Mars.
Yes.
Because what they're doing is group work, which is women are really good at doing groups and networking, and it's rage about an injustice against them and others. And you see a female expression of Mars in things like peace camps and action over the environment. It's a deep, deep rage, but it's not like punching people after the pub on a Friday night. It's not that, which is the way that Mars is characterized. It's about a deep primal rage about how dare you, like climate witnesses.
Yeah,
it's like, how dare you? Greta Thunberg, I think she said that when she talked to the UN. How dare you? That's female rage. How dare you?
Yes.
What female rage is about is protecting our children, our family, the planet, other people. So it's not about ambition in the same way.
Okay, thank you.
Protection.
Yeah, it's lovely to kind of feel the energy of that, and for just to kind of get our heads around the ideas of as women accepting the Martian side of ourselves, because it can feel a bit incongruent. Certainly with mine, it's Venus in Mars, and not Venus in Aries, which is the house. The sign of Mars, but the sign where it's not really at home. So it's from a personal perspective, it feels nice to kind of be integrating that in our session today. And I feel that this is maybe a good point to just segue straight into your section with your meditation that you'd like to offer. And whoever is here joining us, if there's any thoughts or comments or anything that's come up or anything that you'd like to ask Elisabeth, maybe we'll just pop that to one side for now and while we do the meditation, and then we can have a bit more time for discussion. And I know that you've got a little bit more about your book that you wanted to share with us a little bit afterwards, or the Martian expression of the goddess. So I'll just hand over to you and mute myself for the time being, Elisabeth.
Okay, so I hope none of you are driving. If you are, please pull over. If you just take a moment, just close your eyes. Take a couple of big, deep breaths, breathing in and releasing. Breathing in. Releasing, letting go of the morning or the evening. Just feeling yourself right here, right now. Inhabiting your body. And I want you to imagine that you're standing on the edge of a desert. In front of you is the sand dunes and the mountains. The sun is beginning to go down. And there is red light all over the desert. Slowly it cools down. And in front of you, you see a fire burning. Allow yourself to walk towards the fire. Across the cooling sand. Taking in your surroundings. You sit by the fire. You feel the warmth of the flame, the light of the flame. And you stare into the flames. As you watch, pictures emerge. You see pictures of your life slowly passing before your eyes. Watch them without judgment. There's one scene in particular, one part of your life that requires courage. Allow this to be shown in the flames. This part of your life that requires courage from you. Look at the pictures and see how you feel as you see this part of your life. Examine it. Notice the feelings it brings up in you. This place where you need to use courage in your life. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? How is your body reacting? How do you feel about this task that confronts you? Where is your fear in this? Speak to your fear. Hear your fear's voice. Really listen to your fear. And ask yourself, are these fears real? Is there another story you can tell? Go through these fears slowly, one by one. And ask yourself, is there another story here? Are they true? One by one, rewrite the story of your fear. Remembering you're courageous, you're a warrior for what is right. You're a protector of the innocent. You have the courage to deal with the situation in the right way at the right time. Allow yourself to bathe in that sense of rightness and courage. Feel it fully, feel it fill your whole body. Feel courage from your feet to your ankles, to your knees, to your thighs, to your buttocks, to your guts, to your spine, to your chest, to your heart. Feel the courage in your heart. It's here, the courage, it's always been here. Feel it radiating throughout your body. And then from your body to your aura, feel that courage radiate and vibrate with light, with love, with focus. Feel your aura shimmer with your power. And feel it spread further to your room, your environment, your loved ones. Feel it spread through your house, through your neighborhood, through your city, through your country. Feel the power of this courage. Connect up with the power of courage of other women and men of good heart. As we enclose the world with courage and righteousness and love and healing. And see the whole world covered as we connect. We are one. Connected by love and courage. Hold that sensation. Feel it coming to you, going from you. And then slowly withdraw from the world. Remembering you can return at any time. From your country, withdraw to your community. Blessing it. Return to your home. To your aura. To your body. And close down. Become aware of your feet or your body on the ground. Come back into your body. See the fire in front of you. It's burnt down to embers. The sun is rising across the desert. It's nearly time to leave. But before you go, there may be things you wish to put in the fire. Things to release. Things to leave behind. Place these in the glowing embers and watch them burn. One by one, release them. With love and courage, set them free. Now the fire is completely out and you turn and walk away, walking slowly across the desert as the sun rises and you feel the heat on your face and the warmth on your back. So you slowly walk back to the edge of the desert. When you come to the edge, turn and face the whole desert in front of you. Remember what you learned about courage in your personal life or your business. About courage and love in your community, your family, your country, the world. About the courage in your heart that you carry with you. And how we are all connected by courage and love. Slowly go back into the room. Feel your body. Shake your shoulders a bit. Stretch. Move. Take a moment to write down what happened. It's good to write. That grounds and helps you remember. If you don't write, then draw. So you remember this experience. I'll give you a couple of minutes of silence. Okay. Back to you here now when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was so grounding and so beautiful and really powerful. Yeah, I would love to, before I share some of my own reflections, just also to share to whoever is joining us here live, that if you feel to share any of your reflections, or if you have any questions or comments, this is a good time to pop them in the chat so that that I can put them to Elisabeth. Um, and I'm just opening my chat so I can actually see it. Yeah, we've got a heart from Maria there, and yes, a heart from me certainly. So yeah, as we wait for any comments or questions or reflections to come through, I'd love to just share a little bit of what I saw in the flames, if that's all right to do so. As I was looking at the flames, I had this impression of just seeing the spirits of all the disempowered women, or in fact, the powerful women of our past, of our ancestry, all our wise women of history, the healers, and so on, who have been persecuted, who've been vilified, ostracized, and not just in our past, although that was the impression I got, were that the spirits of women who've passed over. But as I'm saying that, I'm aware that as you mentioned earlier, we've got women in the Ukraine, we've got women in the US, we've got women in every country, every location in the world who are feeling disconnected from their power in some ways. And I'm sure each one of us as individual, whether you're a woman or a man watching this, has times when you do feel disconnected from your power. And like for me, I felt that, in a way, we are in this very, well, I consider myself in this very privileged position right now where I've had education, I have the freedom to express myself without persecution, and yet I still feel that weight of persecution, that kind of feeling of unable to express, although I can, but the fear and the kind of subliminal messages that have kind of been passed down, whispered, or that's still ingrained within society and culture worldwide, prevent us from really stepping into our full power. And so that's what I saw in the flames, and I sort of saw them as kind of not just within the flames, but also all around me, and kind of going on like an endless sea, an army of powerful spirits who are just waiting to step into you as a channel, to shine your own unique light, or me myself and my unique light. And I know this is the Divine Business Circle that we're sharing this in, so from a business context, from my personal side, it feels like an encouragement to step into that next level of how I want to express myself within my business, which is bubbling through. I won't go into that in too much detail, but yeah, it's so powerful to do this. Maybe you have a better word for it. I suppose the intuitive, the inner vision work, the inner journey work, which I think we can get so caught up. And yourself as an academic and a writer, that sometimes very and what's right and what's the wrong way to express ourselves, and yet having the space to really go within just gives losing you too much. I'm seeing a little bit of glitching. I've got a pop-up saying internet unstable, so apologies for any any chop outs there. And I'll read some of the comments we have here. So Fiona Gray saying thank you so much. Amanda Edmiston said that was very beautiful. Thank you, Elisabeth. I needed that. Maria Doherty says that was so beautiful and profound. And Yes, Maria adds very helpful meditation to gain clarity. And as you said, Elizabeth, this is here for us to return to whenever we feel the need for it. And it feels really potent, especially as we are on the cusp of the Samhain season, whether you celebrate it on the 31st or at the next full or new moon, or however you choose to celebrate Samhain. We're actually in between two eclipses at the moment, so it does feel like this quite transformative portal period to be doing that inner flame visualization and burning away everything that we no longer need, that keeps us out of our power. And that felt like a really cleansing experience. So yeah, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but if anyone does want to actually just come on with your voice, put up your hand, or I think you can do a thing in the chat, or just say so in the chat if there's anything that you want to vocalize directly to Elisabeth. But while you're having a think about that, and you don't need to if you feel quite comfortable and cozy where you are without coming on, I'd like to invite you, Elisabeth, because I know that you wanted to share a little bit more about the Furies and a bit more about your the Goddess Astrology, some inspiration from your Goddess Astrology book that just came out.
Yeah, I've got a little PowerPoint here. This is the book. Oh, hang on, wait a minute, let's do this right. Right, this is the book which came out, and as I said earlier, it's about my interpretation of astrology from a womanist, feminist perspective. And I love the cover. I didn't do the cover, but it's gorgeous. And this is a bacchant who was a follower of Dionysus. And they were wild women that ran in the mountains, and they played with little leopards, and they screamed and they shouted, and they had snakes on their heads. And they were generally pretty much out of control, but very powerful and feared, because of course we're scary, aren't we? We're not really scared. Okay, that one on. This is the same thing again. It was on a plate, I think. But there she is, snakes in her head, running, being a noisy woman, and that's a very powerful image, I think, of a woman warrior. These are the Furies. These are my line drawings, but I just love them. With a bit of Aries, I think, Fiona, both Fiona and Amanda, you probably recognise that expression of this one in them. This one. I certainly recognise. He's like, yeah, really, you think?
You drew these yourself, Elisabeth?
Pardon?
You drew these yourself?
They're from, yes, they're from. This is from a pot, I think. Most of them from pots. Yeah. I just love the expression. This is you've all got this inside you. This is Mars. This is like, you kidding me? Really? Are you serious? I don't think so. And they're tough, but they're also rather funny. And they play jokes, like they make their victims, because their victims are people that men usually, who don't respect the mother. And they do things like they make them ravenously hungry, and then all the food they eat tastes like shit. Oh. So they're ravenously hungry, but they can't eat the food. They have whole banquets in front of them. They're ravenously hungry. The food tastes like shit. And that's such a female Mars to me. It's like, yeah. So it's not a big sword, but it is making it clear who's in charge here. This is another one. This is the Fury and Apollo. And Apollo, the sun god, the great god, and she's going, yeah, I don't think so. She's not afraid at all. And she's wearing a costume of a warrior. She's wearing a short tunic, little boots, and she has a snake in her hand and big wings. And Apollo looks a little bit worried, I think, as he might be, because the Furies hang out in Delphi, around where Apollo hangs out. they also hang out in the underworld with Persephone and Hecate. So they're dark, And I think as women, we know that there's a darkness inside, and it's good. It's good to know that. Someone once talked about, asked this question, it was a podcast or something, are you dangerous? And I thought, well, that is such an interesting question. Are you dangerous? And it was a man, and he said, if you're not dangerous, then you're a victim. And he didn't mean go around punching people, but I understand, because I am dangerous. I know if someone went for my child or my loved ones, I would be really, really dangerous. Because it's our power, and we don't throw it around like we need to, but we also need to know that we're dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are, that trope about the woman lifting the car off a child, it's like, that's danger. Inner strength, you've got that rage and that danger, and the women in Iran particularly, it's like, how dare you?
Yes.
They're dangerous, and they know that. The patriarchy knows that, and so does Apollos. Oh dear. Okay, I'm doing a talk. I just want to do a bit of an ad. I'm doing a talk for the Magical Women's Conference on the 24th of November online, and I'll be talking a lot more about the book and Goddess Astrology if any of you are interested. And in the end, this is me. That's my website. I do various newsletters and things and stuff on Instagram when I feel like it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So that's Instagram at elisabeth.cl.brooke. I found another Instagram for you, Elisabeth Brooke Astrology. Which is the best one to connect with?
This one. I did the astrology one, and then someone said, well, because I thought, I'll separate the herbal and the astrology, and someone said, it's all you. Why don't you just be all you? And I thought, that's really but it's very difficult to close Instagram accounts. In fact, I failed to close it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I need to learn that lesson too, because I've got way too many pages and things going on. So
well, if you find out, let me know. Anyway, yes, good.
Oh, thank you for that. And we've got a couple of comments. So Amanda says, totally recognize that, I think in reference to the Furies, with the face of the Furies, laughing here so much. And Maria says, fabulous drawing.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
They are hilarious. Every time I see that drawing, I laugh. It's like, it's like a cat can look at a king. It's the same thing. It's like, you may be all puffed up, but actually we know what you are.
And there's another event that you're doing, which I spotted, which I would love to attend, which is at the Scottish Astrological Association. You're doing a decumbiture for herbalists. Well, I presume for astrologers and any healers, but you are an astrologer. I mean, a herbalist, so it'll be from that perspective. So that'll be interesting.
I should have put that on. Yes, that's the 9th of November, and I think it's like a $5 or something. It's very, very reasonable, or free even. Scottish Astrological Association. Yeah, and I'm talking about herbs and astrology. So hopefully about temperament. So how you work out your temperament from the birth chart, and also a bit about decumbiture. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. So could I ask you just to take your slide down for the time being? And I'll also be sharing in the replay notes under the video, all of your links and things. So if you don't have Elisabeth's contacts and you want to find out more about them, you can Elisabeth directly. And I'm not seeing any other questions. I don't think anybody's feeling like coming on just now. So
do I have to be a member?
Here we go.
No, Maria, no. You can be a member, and I think you mean the Scottish one. I think it's £20 a year, but I think you can join as a one-off. And actually, I think do not study these things very closely, but I think if you want to pay a quid or something, or 2 quid.
I think if I remember correctly, it was something like a fiver if you're not a member, and if you are a member, which is very, very reasonable for a year's membership, and gets you access to all kinds of astrological courses. And it is a Scottish-based association, and I used to attend them because I'm from Edinburgh originally. Not that I live there now, but since all the lockdowns and things, it's all gone online as well. So it's this fully accessible for people wherever you may be. You don't have to be in Scotland. So a little plug for the Astrological Association there as well. So yeah, there was a lot of things that sparked that I would love to ask you more about, but I'm aware that we're kind of at our hour now. Is there any sort of last thoughts that you want to leave us with, Elisabeth, before we close?
I think that we're more powerful than we realize. We have more power than we realize. And the people who we consider are against us are not as powerful as they think. There are more of us than there are of them.
Oh, that's beautiful. I saw a little hand go up from Amanda there.
Hi, Amanda.
You know, I couldn't keep quiet.
How could we have an Aries in the room and not have a question from her?
I know. I'm like, I need to say something. I love that. The meditation was fabulous, but I was wondering, from a herbal perspective, and knowing that I'm quite vocal. I'm, an Aries, possibly with either Aries or Taurus rising. I'm on that cuspy kind of position. I found that quite emotional and quite moving, and there was something I'm super aware of, a silly protection thing layers of protection that I use and procrastination is one of them that I use. But was there a herb or maybe something, a bath thing or something that you would recommend to kind of get rid of that final layer? I almost feel like it brought quite a lot of things up, and that one of those meditations almost needs some kind of small herbal adjustment, wash or something to take away that thing that you've burnt and got rid of.
Yeah, rosemary, a herb of Mars and Aries, would be really good. Stick it in your bath, drink tea, have a chat with the bush. Rosemary for courage, and also there's borage. If you're feeling very afraid, then borage is great for courage. But I think for Mars, it's rosemary. Strengthens the heart, strengthens the brain, gives you what you need to shed.
Fabulous, thank you. I'm working with rosemary a lot at the moment. I've had 3 days, interestingly, of standing up on stage doing a piece using herbal stories about climate change and about representation of people through plant stories, and actually opened with something that totally resonated with your talk this morning about being post-punk women fighting for something and being quiet plant activists. And I had rosemary in wearing rosemary the whole time. So I kind of, that absolutely resonates. I've forgotten borage, but I'll have a moment of borage.
What might be useful also is to have a foot bath, Amanda, to bring it from your head to your feet.
Like it. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Maria also has got her hand up.
Hello, lovely. It's been a fascinating talk. I've been really fascinated by it all. Yeah, just so profound. I have to get your books. They sound amazing. I'm a flower essence practitioner, and I remember when I was doing my course, we learned, we came across, and I'm sure you'll know her well, Hildegard of Bergen.
Oh yeah, I've written about her. Yes.
Have you heard? You'll know about her. And it was
I wrote a chapter.
Sorry.
I wrote a chapter in my book Women Healers about her because she wrote.
Oh really? Yeah, because I was wondering about her. She was quite, she did so many amazing things for her times, and Do you feel she was revered and got the respect for in those times, or was it a bit of, was there, or was it a bit of, maybe not so positive things going on? Or from what you found out through your research, how did you find? Because my understanding is that she was quite revered, and she was very scientific, and did a lot of really amazing work. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Being that she was in the church in an abbey, excuse me, she was protected.
Yes, of course.
Protected from the worst of the secular world. She also made really good connections with men in power. So no, I think she was very respected. I mean, she was very eccentric.
Was she?
They had their own language, and they dressed in crowns and all sorts of things you wouldn't necessarily associate with a nunnery, really.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And she wrote beautiful music, and lots of books about health. But I think she had good connections, which is one way to stay alive, I think. Still,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
A wonderful woman, absolutely wonderful, Hildegard. Such humor. And if you read her teachings about sex, it's very open, because we think you've got the kind of Victorian Edwardian mindset, but in the Middle Ages, they did not have that. They were very open about their bodies and women and pleasure and all those things. So it's very different.
Yeah, thank you. That's fascinating. I'll have to read more, definitely. Yes, thank you.
So Maria, as a flower essence person, what would you use for courage or fear?
Borage for courage. Yeah, that's always the one. Also, in the wild art animal range, of course, there's lion, which is the they're shamanically made by Daniel Maple, so they're shamanically done. So obviously, you think of the archetype, the lion's about courage as well. And probably, I think Mimulus from good old Dr. Bach, because that's for fear, isn't it? Yeah. And maybe Larch as well, because that's confidence. I think the kind of, you can need a bit of both, don't you? Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
You're very welcome.
Brilliant question. Thank you, Maria and Amanda. And just brought to mind as well, since we're bringing some herbs into it, is nettle was coming through during my meditation, which of course is very iron rich, which is, a Mars trait, isn't it, Elisabeth?
Absolutely. It's a herb of Mars. Yeah, it is. It dries up fluid in the body, but also definitely it gives you energy, it gives you protection. And the seeds of nettle are a very strong stimulant.
Yeah, and even though it's such a fiery herb, when we brush up against it, actually when we make it into a tea, it can help to cool the fires, the inflammation that we can experience in the skin and within the body. So it's interesting how they have this amphoteric kind of effect. I think that's the right word. Yeah.
But also the way it grows, one of the first plants to grow in spring. After a soggy winter, what you need is drying up and heating up and energizing. And there you go, nettle. Straight for you.
Yeah. Yes, and that brought back to mind that desert image within your meditation, that sort of, getting rid of the water. And ironically, here it was pouring with rain while I was listening to that. So I was trying to visualize the desert while there's all this water around me. But,
yeah, it's raining here too.
Yes. I think we need it's good to remember that when things do get a bit bogged down and heavy, with emotions and feeling that stagnation, that we can draw on these herbs and just the energetics of Mars and fire to power ourselves through, and particularly as we're all holistic business owners. That's
certainly most of the herbs of Mars are fiery or bitter, so ginger, milk, those sorts of things. Maria, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to mention very quickly, when you mentioned nettle, in one of the flower, one of the flower essence ranges, nettles all. So we take nettle to help, in our suit of armor, if you like, from the influence of others or stronger energies.
Really?
So that's what nettle is for in one of the. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So that's interesting that I think they're kind of linked in a way, aren't they? The protection and the courage and what we've been talking about. Yeah.
Which kind of
Empowering.
flower essences is nettle found in which?
It's in the ones now. What are they called? Oh gosh, I have it. I can probably put it it's made by, they're English ones, and they're made by a guy called Paul Strode, and I think he calls them. He's an amazing guy. I think he's a kinesiologist. He's a complementary healer as well, and he works a lot with children, but he works with adults too. And I think they're called what are they called?
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I know the really simple name because I have them in my kit, but I'm not at home at the moment.
Well, what we'll do, Maria, is I'll put a thread up in the Divine Business Circle Facebook group, so that if anyone has any resources or any little
because I definitely.
Sorry, I think we had a bit of glitchy crossover there. Maria.
But they are English ones. They're modern English ones, and the guy's called Paul Strode, I think, and it's something like flower essence. I think they're called English flower essences or something very simple anyway. But he's like the modern Dr. Batch, you know, in some ways. Yeah.
I'll create a thread for the Divine Business Circle group. So if any other inspirations or anything else that we haven't had time to discuss that you would like to share in the group and continue the conversation outside this call, then I'll open up that chat within the Divine Business Circle Facebook group. So feel free to pop in there maybe in about half an hour or so when I've had a chance to upload the video and so on. Amanda's mentioning that Fintorn flower essences also do a lovely protect spray. So that sounds interesting. And and just one final little thing that popped into my mind is one time there was a rosemary bush that we were pruning back because it had totally overgrown, and I used the extra branches just to float in my bath with me. And I find branches really good for body scrubs and so if and especially at this time of year, I'm not sure if you've got rosemary growing wherever you are, but it's quite a good time to cut back and do a bit of pruning before the winter sets in. So thank you all for a lively discussion and lots of herbs to consider to help us connect with our Mars energy. And thank you so much, Elisabeth, for the meditation and all of your books. Oh, actually, one last thing. I don't always show the card, but I always pull a card for the speaker or for the conversation, and I thought this one was really apt. I don't know if I'm on full screen or not because I can't see myself where I'm at, but this is I've disappeared. the Eight of Pentacles, which felt suitably Samhain-y, but very apt for Elisabeth, I thought, because this shows the energy of a skilled crafts person, and who has put a lot of skill and effort and energy and many years of research and training into your books, and you've kind of got quite the collection of works now, Elisabeth, and it's just so inspiring to us. And so I see you as this industrious spider here in the center of this web, with all of your efforts kind of around it, and you're sat there in the center radiating that out, quite Mars-like, just projecting things out there. Not that spiders can be Mars-like. They've been speaking a lot to me lately, but that's another story. So I just wanted to share that. So maybe that'll resonate with some others on the call too. So with that, just one more. Thank you so much, Elisabeth, and thank you all for coming. And do tune in to Divine Business Journeys. We've got a whole series of replays on YouTube, and we've got more guest speakers coming up, and they're coming out every couple of weeks at the moment. So feel free to tune into that. And if you are a holistic, spiritual, divine business owner, and you're not in our Divine Business Circle, please do join us in the group. and share for each other on our divine journeys. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been lovely to spend, well, evening where I am, and I think morning for many of you too. So
Thank you,
lots of love.
everyone.